All right. Well, happy 2023, everybody. It's Jim Hobbs, Keto Rocks Radio, Carnivore Country, with my sidekick, Carnivore co-host, Brian Damage Forsythe of the band Kix, and Rhino Bucket, who recently just got through blazing through Europe. And Brian's now back in the States. So I know the big question everybody has for you right now, Brian, is are you aware that it's a Super Bowl this weekend?
Vaguely.
No, the real question is, how was the tour? And more importantly, how was the food that you devoured while you were overseas?
Well, the tour was great. I mean, several sold out shows, and the ones that weren't sold out were jam packed. And yeah, I mean, the crowds were great every night. And it was definitely grueling. It was fun and grueling at the same time. I mean, it's a lot of work, and it's like on a whole different level as, like, say, Kix or something. I mean, you know, we're the roadies, and we unload the van, we set up the gear, we play, we tear down the gear, we load the van, we go back to the hotel, we sleep, we get up, we drive, and it's just night after night after night. But you know, it goes fast because you're so busy. And man, and when you're on stage and it's a crowd of people in a foreign country, there's nothing better. There's nothing, no better feeling.
Now,
so that's cool.
Okay, so that's all the positives. So that's cool. So 30 days just goes by real quick because it's just nonstop.
Pretty quick. It's pretty quick. But you know, when you're in the middle of it, you're thinking, "Oh man, I thought we were almost done." It's like, how many more? But
well, that's cool. Well, you know, thanks for sharing pictures back and posted pictures. I mean, you went through some beautiful countryside. I mean, to go through the Swiss Alps and to see the castles and to see some of the scenery that you got a chance to see along the way. What were some of your highlights?
Well, that's the thing. You know, in the past years, I took a lot more pictures. It seemed like this year the windows in the van were dirty because the first probably 2 weeks we were there, it rained every single day. It was raining or drizzling or something. And, you know, so the van got dirty, and I'm sitting in, we kind of sit in the same seat. We're creatures of habit. So we end up in the same seats every time. Yeah. So I'm stuck behind the driver's seat, in the seat behind the driver's seat. And it's a tall, you know, it's a tall seat. So I can't see forward unless I lean over, you know, and look between the seats. And then I have a window next to me, but it's tinted and it's dirty at the same time, and we're moving, you know. So I didn't get a whole lot of pictures this time. And that was, you know, it's weird. With the internet and all, like, now I have unlimited data on my phone, so I can, you know, have an international plan and all that stuff. So I find myself posting and doing stuff while we're driving. And in the old days, I'd have to have my phone off because I was worried about using up, you know, getting charged for
$6 a minute deal.
Yeah, the roaming charges and all that. So that sort of kept me from really engaging with the surroundings. But man, there were a few things that I saw that I missed. Like, I wish I could have gotten a picture, or I tried to get a picture and it didn't look like what I saw. So I didn't even bother to post it. But wow, the highlights, they're just, well, one of them was that one trip we made. Where were we going? We went through the Black Forest. It was near the end there. It was a really long trip we had to make because we were way down in Marseille, which is down near the Mediterranean. It's South France. And then we had to go up to Germany, Talheim, Germany, which is it was up through that Black Forest, which is these windy roads up through the mountains. And that's the one where I posted the picture of the ski resort that I saw. It was like a ski jump thing.
Right.
That was at the top of the mountain, but going up there, it was just this windy road that just went back and forth, and and there were these big rock formations, but they were so big, there was no way to even get a picture of them. But they were fascinating, and oh, man, it was cool. And it was snowing, and it was like, dreary, and it wasn't the best weather for photos, but that was cool. There was just so many different, and some of those the cities we went to, we had a couple days off. I took a picture out of my bedroom window, but that city, what was it called? It's French. And our tour guy, the guy that drives us, his name is Max. He was French, so he taught me how to pronounce it. What is it? I'd have to see it spelled to remember how to pronounce it. But anyway, it's an ancient city, and it's got up on the hills. It has this huge fortress, and the old town downtown is closed off to traffic, so you can't even drive a car down in there. You can only walk or ride a bike or ride a scooter. So we had 2 days off there, and we had big plans coming in, like, oh, we're gonna go see this and do that. And we get there, and my feet were so sore. I was like, I'm not going anywhere. And luckily there was a butcher when you go down at they rented us a little apartment, a 3-bedroom apartment. It was like an Airbnb it was Reeve, Dave, and I, and then George stayed at Max's place a few blocks away. And yeah, we thought we were going to be running around. And luckily there was a butcher right. You go outside the apartment door that was right on the street, and the next door over was a butcher shop. So
there we go.
I went there, and then there was a corner market where I went and got a couple other things, but that's about as far as I went.
Well, let's talk about the food. So how was the food? How was the butcher shop? Was it fresh from local farms there?
Yeah. The guy spoke no English. So I had to go in there with Max. Max came by and took me in there because there's no way I could have communicated to the guy.
Me want meat.
Because I wanted a big ribeye. And even with Max talking to the guy in French, he kept bringing out pieces of meat, and I'm like, well, what is that?
Hey, those are the butchers from Summer Duck with those little teeny fillets that I bought 2 years ago in the freezer.
Well, they weren't like tiny, but still. Well, it's funny because this butcher was really into it. Like everything that he brought out, he'd already be trimming it before I'd even say, well, no, that's not it.
Leave the fat.
But yeah, he'd be trimming it, and like he's just into his job. But finally, I guess somehow Max got it across to him. I think the word prime rib came up, and I went, that's it, that's what I want. and so the guy went back and he brought the whole prime rib roast, and it was huge. And you could tell it had been in there. It was like aged and stuff. So he chopped me up, and Max was telling him how thick he goes like this. And I go, no, like this. I was telling him how thick. So the guy, he was like into it. He chopped me off that big old chunk.
Now, where'd you take it to go get it cooked? Did you have in your apartment, you had the ability to cook it there, or you had to go someplace else?
No, I did it up there in a skillet. And it was like, God, they had the worst. Their old pots and pans have been burnt, and there was no proper spatula. It was like
you had no utensils. You were out in the cold.
Yeah, I was definitely winging it and making do with what I had. And luckily there was that little market down the street too, because they had really good butter. I had my salt with me, of course. I always carry my salt, but
now, did they sell raw butter over there in those markets?
No, they didn't have raw. I'm sure I could have probably found it, but it was local. It was local butter. In fact, where that city is located, it's on a river, but you go out of town and it goes kind of up to the what do you call it? It's like up in the hills, kind of, and that's where all the dairy stuff is. Like they have cheese, like so. There's local cheese from that area up above there, and that's where the butter was from too. And that was another thing. I had Max with me because that's where he lives. That's his hometown. So he took me in the market and he goes, "Oh, this is the good butter. This is local." So I got that. And then in the butcher shop, he also had other stuff. He had some cheese that I got a big chunk of cheese that was local. Really good cheese.
I was
Man.
gonna say their cheese has got to be really good over there.
Yeah, between France and Switzerland, man, their cheese. I was like, oh, you know what else they have over there? Are cheese machines, like vending machines with cheese.
That needs to be brought over to the United States. That's something we need to have.
Well, and it's not like cheap packaged commercial cheese either. It's the good cheese. Like they're like these big bins, like there's two bins side by side, and you have to, select a number, and it's a big rotating thing. And I don't even know how many cheeses are in that thing. But Max told me about the cheese machines, and I was picturing like a Coke machine or a snack machine, something cheap,
Right.
Nothing fancy. But we're at this it was a roadside stop where you get gas, and they have a gas station, a convenient market and a little restaurant. And we're in there getting some coffee and stuff, and Max goes, "Oh, there's one of those cheese machines." And I go, "Oh, really? Let me go look." And I went over there, and they had these big chunks, just like the cheese up on in the butcher shop, but different varieties.
Does it shave it, or does it open up a block, like it opens up a bin and you get a big block of cheese?
Well, no, they're like a wedge. It's like a wedge. It's been cut, and it's put in like a vacuum sealed thing that they put it in. And but it's like the one I bought. They're different sizes, so each one has its own price on it. So I bought one. It was probably around €11 or something, but it was a nice size. It was about rectangle like that, and the wedge was like that fat at one end, and it went down, a wedge. And I carried that around in the van for about a week, but that was good. Oh, so good.
I'm thinking we gotta bring the cheese machines to the United States. How cool would it be to have meat and cheese machines out there?
Yeah, I know. Instead of a snack machine full of carbs.
Full of processed crap.
Yeah.
Have real food. Wow. We need to figure out, did you take a picture of one of those machines?
You know what? I was telling Shannon about the machine, and she goes, "You didn't take a picture?" And I'm like, "Oh man, I should have taken a picture."
Well, I gotta now you got me wanting to Google cheese machine and see what one looks like, and see where we can get one, because man, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Because the reality of it is, here in the States, we don't have options. People are almost forced to eat processed crap.
I know.
So to be able to give them another option would be awesome. To be able to give them the cheese meat machines out there. I take it they were refrigerated, just like a Coke machine would be.
I would assume, yeah. Yeah. I didn't touch it or anything, but it is a big industrial, big machine. So big vending machine.
So, well, anyway, so it sounds like you had an absolutely great time. You survived it with a grueling every night schedule, other than a couple of days off.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to get back to the food a little bit.
Yeah, let's hear it.
This is my first trip to Europe being a carnivore. All the other trips I made over there, I was either keto or, I was pescatarian. I wasn't eating meat, so I never got to eat the meat. So, so I was looking forward to that. But the thing is, that I kind of forgot about. Most of the shows, the promoter they provide food. A lot of them, they provide the food, or they'll take you out to a place that they're connected to, that's like right there by the club or something. So I did get a few really decent meals, but there a lot of times it was just like, Max would he what do you call it? Check in with the promoter before we get there, and he'd find out that the food was something I'm not going to eat, like it would be some kind of pasta or something. And so he'd go, "Is there anything else?" And And then so there were several shows where it was catered, and those guys got their food and I got my food. And I always end up being like the special guy that has to have the special meal. And I kept telling
That
Max,
carnivore Brian, he's such a pain.
I know. So I kept telling Max, well, I don't expect them to go out of my way. I can figure it out. And if I have to, I'll just fast. It's no big
Right.
deal. And I carry carnivore bars
Well,
with
how
me.
long did your? I was gonna ask. That was gonna be my next question. How long did your carnivore sustain you for? Did you pack enough to get you through the trip, or did you run out?
No, I ran out of the Paleo Valley, those meat sticks. I ran out of those. I did have one carnivore bar that I saved that I ate on my flight back. But I didn't really need them. Like we had that was the other thing. I kind of the intermittent fasting thing. I ate breakfast for a change, just because we get up early. Well, the breakfast at a hotel is usually from like 6:30 a.m. till 9,
Right.
or maybe 10 at the latest. And we'd have to check out and drive all day. So I would get up and go down to the breakfast, because usually it's hard-boiled eggs or something. So that I started pilfering the eggs from the breakfast buffet. So I had a collection of eggs stashed too. So in case if there wasn't enough to eat at the venue, I just eat eggs. And that's usually what they made me. If they didn't have the right food, they would just make me. Well, he'd ask them to make me an omelet, but I think I got one proper omelet. The rest of them, it was just an egg folded over. It wasn't even. It was like scrambled eggs, no cheese, no nothing.
So you were carrying around some hard-boiled eggs with you from the buffet hotels, from the hotels buffets, I should say, breakfast buffets. And
Yeah, well, anything that I could take with me. I mean, there's a lot of lunch meats and stuff too. But even their lunch meats are better over there. They're not like the cheap processed crap that we have here. Not that it's all cheap in process. Well, it is processed, but over there it's like it's a lot better quality.
how are the people as far as health wise goes? Physical, I mean, are they as obese as they are here in the United States? Like, if you went out, do you see as many obese people over there as you did here?
No, but it's probably not as healthy as it used to be, because a lot of area, a
Been
lot of countries,
westernized.
yeah, they become westernized with McDonald's and everything. In fact, they even have Five Guys over there. Not that Five Guys is bad, but
Wow,
but
I didn't know. Wow, so Five Guys made it overseas. They're over there too now, huh? That's great.
yeah, there's a few in Germany. I forget. There's a few around.
Now, were you able to stop at one of your Five Guys and get your damage bowl? No.
Nah, I'm trying to remember, where were we? What town was that? It's a town where we did laundry. I think it might have been Germany. But we ended up going to a place. I got a steak instead. But Max, our tour manager, he took a walk down into the touristy section of town, which was probably 5 blocks. It was probably 5 blocks from where we were. And he said he walked by a Five Guys. He says, "There's a Five Guys down there," but it was like, oh, well, this place has a steak. I'll have the steak. So,
Well, it looked like you guys had a good. I know you guys one night you guys had a birthday dinner
oh, for
uh,
Dave,
for
yeah.
Dave, yeah, and it actually looked really really good. Now, was that at a restaurant or was that food that you cooked from the butcher?
No, that was at a hotel restaurant. That was in Talheim, um, Germany. And we stayed at that place before. It's like this small little country hotel, motel. It's with the restaurant down in the front. And uh, it's funny though, they serve fries on everybody's plate, plus two big bowls of fries on the table. Everything's like French fries. But they call them, what do they call them? Palms Fritz
Pommes frites.
is the German name for French fries.
Okay.
POMMES. I think that's the way they spell it. Something like that. But yeah, they're big on the potatoes over there.
Wow.
And it's funny because when I would order food, and every once in a while if they spoke English, I'd go into a little bit more detail. But if they didn't speak English, I just ordered whatever the dish was, and then I just eat the meat off of it. I didn't worry about telling them to hold the sides and complicate things. But if I could, I would tell them, don't worry about the sides or this or that, or especially like if I was ordering a burger with no bun. It's funny. I got more weird looks over there than I do over here in America.
Really?
Yeah, they couldn't understand why I didn't want to eat the vegetables.
Well, they're such a bread conscious. I mean, bread's a big part of their dinners. I mean, dipping it
Yeah,
in
that too.
olive oil. I mean, it's a big deal for them. So I
Yeah.
can understand. Well, cool. So what was some of did you experiment with any new food? Did you try a food group that you haven't tried before while you were over in Europe?
God, that's a good question. I think I ate some stuff I hadn't eaten before, but I can't remember.
Well, let me ask you this: were the cheese machines over there in 2018, or is it something new they've added? Or you didn't care about the cheese machines back then because you weren't carnivore?
Well, I ate cheese.
Well, I know, but you ate cheese, but you weren't as conscious as you are now. So that
Well, if they had them, nobody pointed them out, so I didn't notice.
gotcha.
And Max being French, like we've done several tours with Teenage Head Music, and Max is like one of the tour manager guys and drivers. And I think we've had Max twice or maybe three times at the most. So any other guy it would have either been Manny, who's Belgium, or Carmen, who is Swiss. And we had another guy that was from Sweden, a Swedish guy. So we've had different ones. And so Max was probably the only one that would be cheese conscious because he's
Right.
French.
Now, do they have places where I know, like when you go to Alaska, when we go to Alaska to salmon fish, there's places that allows you to send Alaskan crab legs or salmon back to the States, like you can ship it. Do they have places over there like you could, like in Swiss, Swiss cheese being a big deal, that you could send cheese back to the States?
I didn't notice. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
So
I don't know if
got one of those big cheese
I don't
wheels.
know if you get in trouble bringing it in your suitcase because it's food. I don't know how that
Yeah,
works.
how is traveling from country to country over there? I mean, I know you guys got a tour guide and all that. That's driving the van for you guys, but I mean, do you guys got to show your passport every time you're going through customs, or how does that work?
No, not every time. Some places, you go through the border and they just wave you through, sort of like a, toll, kind of like that. And going into Switzerland, they're a little bit more picky because they want to see, especially a van. They want to ask some questions, so we all have to pass our passports up to the front, and they just check them, and then they have to look in the back, and they're concerned about the merch, all our t-shirts and stuff. So we have to give them a deposit, and they count the t-shirts, and then when we come back across the border, they recount, and then they give us back the deposit minus the taxes for whatever we sold.
Wow. So it's truly a toll that you're going through then.
Well, that's just Switzerland. I mean, when you go from France, from Germany to France, or from France to like Slovakia or they don't even look at anything.
Now, did you guys sell a lot of merchandise, a lot of merch while you were over there?
Yeah, we got 15 days in and we had to reorder because we were almost out. And then the last gig, we sold everything. We had nothing left. So
That's great. That's perfect. That's exactly the way you want to end it.
yeah, I mean, if we would have had more, we probably could have sold more. But the way that it ended, we didn't have to deal with stuffing our suitcases with extra t-shirts and stuff. So
Cool. Well, awesome.
the only thing we did wrong was we didn't have vinyl, which we should have had.
Is vinyl big over there? Is vinyl big now? I mean,
yeah, it's bigger than you're more likely to sell vinyl than CDs.
Well, that makes sense.
We should have had some when we didn't.
Well, good. So did you guys, I mean, did you sell out everything, including your CDs?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, then it was a profitable trip for you guys, a profitable tour.
Yeah, it was a pleasant surprise.
Well, that's awesome. Now, in regards to what's happening lately in the keto carnivore world, I know you've been posting a lot of articles lately, and I just want to come clean with everybody since it's 2023. I have been extremely disciplined for the last year. I'm down to 188 pounds. It's the lightest I've been since a senior in high school. I feel great, but I had a moment of weakness yesterday, so I want to kind of share what that weakness was. And I was in Wegmans, and I was actually looking for my keto chocolate, which I have one bar. It's a snack, and it's fine. It's been part of my nightly for forever. But Peggy and I both are. We're addicts. We're cashew addicts. Sea salt whole cashews, roasted cashews with sea salt. We're just addicts. And so we buy a big old bottle of it. We'll go through it in a day or two. It's just we just can't. It's like if we eat one, we're gonna eat all of them. So we refuse to buy them, and we haven't had them in the house forever, at least a year. But yesterday I was at a Wegmans and I was starving. It was like 2 o'clock. I was away from home. So they had this wall of cashews, Brian, and I'm staring at them. I picked them up and I'm like, oh my gosh, they look so good. You know what? I'm going to get them. So got in the car, opened them up, and I just as I'm driving around, I'm just putting those cashews in my mouth and I'm like, oh, this is delicious. And next thing I know, I'm not feeling good. I mean, this is how quickly this hit me. So I go, man, I said, that's not really setting well with me. So I picked up the canister, turned it over, and I thought it was just cashews and sea salt because that's what it said on the front. No. Cashews, sea salt, canola oil, sunflower. I was like, oh my God. I put the top. This is the part where I put the top back on, and I said, I'm not eating anymore. Peggy called me, and I said, look, I did a bad thing. She's like, what? I said, I bought a thing of cashews. And she's like, bad Hobbs. Why'd you do that? She said, don't bring them in the house. So when I got home, I took them over to our daughter's, our son-in-law. He loves cashews. So I said, hey, and out the door, I said, hey, here's some cashews I picked up for you. So I gave him the cashews because he loves them. But like, I've had no aches and pains at all. That night, I woke up the next morning and my joints were inflamed. I was sore. I haven't heard it all in at least a year for sure. But just to show you how that sunflower seed oil, that canola oil, what it does to your joints that quickly.
Yeah.
And so
it's toxic. Yeah.
Yeah, it truly is. And your body reacted to it. And, I really haven't ate much today because I probably had a full cup of cashews. That's not a lot considering what I used to eat. But, the problem is it enacts that addictive part of your brain where you're mindlessly just eating one cashew after another because it's giving you that dopamine hit. Like, ooh, this is good. Must have another. And you're stuffed. And then how you feel after. And I was like, why? And it was just more proof to me how poisonous that food is. And what the damage it's doing to our bodies, and just how resilient our bodies are, because most of them are just constantly feeding their body that crap.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. It's like you don't realize what it does to you until you've been away from it for so long, and then you reincorporate it, and then you realize that's the way you used to feel all the time and thought it was normal.
Right.
You didn't know at that point, you didn't know how good you could feel.
Yeah, and that's
Because you,
exactly,
because
that's right, and that's the thing. I mean, I see how people operate and walk around, and like they're like slow, it's slow motion, but they're not feeling good. They don't really know how good they could be feeling if they just change what they're incorporating into their lifestyle, what they're digesting, what they're putting in their body. Um, and people look at you and go all the time. I mean, especially in lately, I've been in some social environments. They're like, so you don't eat this, or they want to go eat during the middle of the day. I go, hey, I'll go have a cup of coffee with you, or I'll drink water. I said, but I usually, I'm a carnivore. I eat one piece of meat, one meal a day, and a huge chunk of meat. But I said, but look, I'll sit with you, and it's amazing how uncomfortable that makes people feel. I'm like, look, I'm okay. I'm okay. And
yeah, it's weird.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, getting back to what you were saying a second ago, where people don't realize how good they could feel, but there's no way to really say it in words to convince somebody of that. Because I'll have these food discussions with people, like the guys in Rhino Bucket riding around in the van. We'd stop at one of those roadside places, and there's these I guess they're bratwurst, those big sausages. And George like couldn't wait to get one of those, and I'd never had one, so I go, okay. He says, are you gonna try one? And I go, sure, I'll try one. So I got one, and they're really good. But I just got the sausage, and everybody else got this big, like almost like a baguette size bun to go with it, and they're slathering stuff on it and mustard, and and I'm just eating the plain sausage, and I'm going, yeah, these are pretty good. But so I would get into these food discussions with these guys as we're riding around, and I'm trying not to push stuff on them,
Right.
whatever, if they want to eat that stuff, their bread and stuff, that's their choice. But I'm trying to, they don't understand the extent of it. They just think I'm being restrictive with myself or something, or they don't really understand the full thing that I'm doing, like the impact on my health, and how good I feel when I don't eat that stuff.
I know.
And you can't tell somebody that.
No.
Even the canola oil in an ingredient thing. I mean, that's why I never just assume something's good. I make sure I scan every last ingredient, and before I put it in my mouth, and I will get some weird looks for doing that, but you're proof of why you should do that.
Right. Well, I understand, because people say that all the time. They go, well, I just couldn't give up my bread, or I just could give up my pasta, or I just couldn't give up this.
Right.
I understand that, and this is the part that I hear you're saying, and you're right. It's hard to really convey this message, but it's like I could never give up not spending the money that I've earned. That's what they're saying. That I can never and you go, but if you just would stop, you'd be surprised how much richer you become just by changing this habit, and you would be experiencing something that you didn't think's possible at this stage of your life. Like, it's hard to even be able to comprehend that you really can feel that good, because
Right.
people don't. And once you do experience what most people believe is impossible, you don't want to return back to how you felt during this time. Like Peggy came across. We were looking for our marriage certificate the other day for a reason, and we came across all our old photo albums and photos, and Peggy's like, "Oh my gosh, we look so much better now than we did 20 years ago. Like, look at us." And I just see, I have like a bloated tick it's like I look at myself and I felt like a bloated tick. I felt exactly like I felt yesterday when I started devouring those cashews, but I went through life just feeling that way and not knowing what's possible. And once you realize, oh my gosh, I I don't want to lose this. I want to cherish this. I want to treasure this, and I want to protect this. And people don't understand. People think you're restricting. Oh, I feel bad for you. You can only have that. And you're like, no, no, no. You don't understand. I have
Or
everything.
or the one that, yeah, or the one I get is like, man, you really have a lot of willpower. And it's like, it's not that I'm holding myself back, really.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, you know, I look back at some of my favorite foods that seemed hard at first to give up, but now it's like it's almost like I was just hanging on to it because the taste of it or something. It's like it didn't do anything for me. Like if you think about the nutrients and all that junk, it's like now I just go for the most dense, nutrient dense food for every meal and make it count.
Right.
It's like so to me, like a sandwich doesn't make sense to me. Like bread with the meat, like I mean, I understand people like that, but and I used to like sandwiches, but now
Right.
it's like it doesn't make sense to me anymore. It's like, why would I want to just add this extra thing on top of the meat that doesn't really make sense? But that's just my change in perspective now that I've been doing this.
Right. And I think that's the hardest part. It's really just it's a change. Honestly, I think people have to realize if and let's just use your hamburger hot dog analogy, the bread or sandwich. If your
Hmm.
sandwich, if we could blindfold you and take your favorite sandwich and make your favorite sandwich better, like you would like it even better, would you want to try that? And most people would say, well, yeah, if you could make my favorite sandwich taste even better, or I'd like it even more. And even because when you remove the bread, it really is just psychological. I know when Peggy and I started going, man, we're going to start doing our $5 burger Mondays that we used to go to. We're like, oh, we got to stop having the bread. But what we found out was we actually liked the burger better, and it didn't take us long to realize that just having the bread was just a habit, and it was just mental that we were so accustomed to having a hamburger with bread on it that by not having on it, we were like, wow, I really like the taste of the meat better. I really like eating a hamburger better this way. That's what we found out. But
Hmm.
it didn't take long. But and when you start to make those subtle changes, it doesn't take long for your body start to feel better as well. And so not only in my opinion, does the food taste better, but you start to feel better. And so you're getting the best of both worlds. And that's where people don't, they go, oh man, it's gotta be really tough that you can be in here and you have to eat your burger without your bread. And you're like, but you're missing the point. It's not a sacrifice. Like I'm celebrating this. Like you have no idea how better it is all the way around for me.
Well, and another bonus is you can eat more burgers.
Yeah,
Like people see the stack of burgers I eat and they go, "Oh, I can never eat that much." And that's because you're eating a bun with every one of those.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
you take
that's
the
the other
bun
thing,
away, you can just stack up the meat.
right? Well, people don't understand that, because people say that all the time. Like, well, I could never eat what you eat. You eat what? You eat an 18 or 22 ounce or 24 ounce ribeye, and you're like, yeah, I could never do that. I said, yeah, that's because you're eating or snacking or your 5 to 7 small meals a day. Your body never gets a chance to truly digest it all and clean your system out. And so that's what you're
And
missing
most
out on.
and most people eat a steak with either a baked potato or French fries. you
Yeah,
know.
and look, and I was guilty of that for the majority of my life, man. I couldn't wait to get a baked potato and throw the butter and the chives and the bacon and all
I
that
throw the
stuff
butter
on
on my
there.
steak now.
Yeah, now you throw the butt right. And so I'd much rather just eat a big old ribeye and or big old piece of prime rib, or even have a bunch of burgers with bacon and cheddar. And that's the part that people don't understand. Like, I don't feel I'm missing out on anything because I have true health and energy, and it's not a sacrifice. It's like I feel so blessed at this stage of my life to feel as great as I did in my 20s. And I look back and I'm like, man, I took it for granted that I would be 60. I would take it for granted that I was going to be old, but here I am and I don't feel old, and it's only because of what I'm fueling my body with. And so when people go, man, it's got to be so tough, and I'm like, but it's not. That's the part that it's not tough.
Yeah, once you get on the roll, it's smooth sailing. I mean, because I started out, what was it? What was the November one that
No carb November.
yeah, we started out with that, and then all of a sudden there was December, there was another December one.
And
So I
now
jumped on that one. And then January is another one that we just went through. I think Nisha, Dr. Barry's wife, had the
coined
January one. I
right.
can't remember the titles, but so I just decided to commit to each one of those. So it's been like solid, like every month it's something. So it's good. It's good though. It keeps me on track. Just that little commitment thing. But once you're in this, and like you're saying, you realize how good you feel. It's like, for me, it's like I just, like I said, I just want to get the most nutrient dense meal that I can eat without any extra junk that doesn't really count towards my health. I did though, however, I made Shannon some ice cream, but without sugar.
You did your mocha espresso ice cream? Did you make?
I didn't. We just add the coffee later. I just made vanilla, but she was like on this ice cream kick. So when I got back, I said, I'll make some ice cream for you, because she, I didn't want her to go to the store and buy the crappy ice cream. So even though she's been really good about looking at ingredients. So she'll get one that's like the least bad. Like it doesn't have the high fructose corn syrup or any of that junk in it. But I had one of those attachments for the KitchenAid, whatever that thing's called.
Yeah,
And I hated it for my
yeah,
ice cream.
yeah. So, well, do they have another attachment that you don't hate? I mean, because I got the same one.
No, we bought a whole new ice cream maker with a
Ah,
compressor. So you don't have to freeze a bowl. You just put the stuff in there and it cools it and it does the whole thing. And so I made a batch of that the other night, and it's like real ice cream. I don't know what the difference is. Why it would, same ingredients, but this one you could actually take the scooper, like I put it in a bowl and put it in the freezer. And when I got this ice cream scooper and scooped it, it came out just like it would out of an ice cream container.
wow.
Like before, it was always too frozen, like a brick. So you'd have to sort of let it get a little soft before you could actually scoop it out, and it would always be a little too icy or something. But this came out. I don't know why this was so much better, but it's like it tastes like store-bought ice cream. It's so
So,
good.
so, so is she good with that type of ice cream then?
Oh yeah, and I made her well, she cheats a little. She got some malt that she puts in hers. So I made her a milkshake tonight because I made her some burgers, Five Guys style burgers, and some grilled onions, and I made her a chocolate malt to go with it. But it doesn't have sugar, but it's got the malt. But you know,
Hey, it's baby steps.
yeah. And I even used a little bit of raw milk because it was the ice creams with. I didn't use the raw. I used heavy cream and regular cream, like the good cream in a glass jar. But for her milkshake, I used a little of the actual raw milk that I bought.
Wow. You're getting me hungry for some ice cream. I haven't made ice cream in a long time. Matter of fact, I haven't made it at all in at least 6 months. So I still got your recipe sitting there on our table of recipes.
Well, that was, in fact, that recipe that I had, that was like the more complicated. This is just the throw together version, almost like Dr. Kilt's, where you just take the egg yolks and the cream and the vanilla, basically, and a little bit of salt.
That's it.
And just throw it in there. I didn't have to let it sit overnight like I used to. And you know, at some point I may want to try that where you cook it down, but that's, you know, you make the custard and then you add that, you know, it's a whole nother process. But because this turned out so well, I don't think I need to do it like that anymore. This worked perfectly fine.
So you just bought a regular ice cream machine that makes ice cream.
I can show it to you.
Yes,
but the other thing is too, Dr. Kilt's, I went by his measurements. He does, for every pint, he uses 2 egg yolks. I used 2 pints of heavy cream. Actually, I used 1.5 pints, and then so it's like, what is it? 2 cups, and then 1 cup, and then 1 cup of regular cream. So that was the liquid. And then for the egg yolks, his would have called for 4 egg yolks. I put 6. So I added 2 extra egg yolks just to make it thick. Let me see if I can pull it. This thing's heavy though.
You can do it. Oh my gosh, it does look heavy. Oh my gosh.
It's got a compressor in it.
Wow.
And it's got, open this one. It's got a bucket that comes out.
Okay.
With the little thing in there. And it's cool because you just pour it into the bucket. You put the bucket in there, put the lid on, and then you just program the digital thing. And
so is that like a refrigeration unit? Is that why it's so heavy? I mean, it's actually,
yeah, it's got a compressor in it. Yeah. So it pulls it down, and the cool thing is too, I mean, you can make a batch, you know, dump it into a container, turn around and make another batch if you want of something else, you know.
you just order some extra buckets. So you can put that in the freezer and then throw another bucket and make another one. They got to sell extra buckets.
Well, you just take it out of the bucket. Like, what did I have it in the sink. I haven't washed them yet, but I just got these from Amazon. They're ice cream containers. So you just stick them in your little containers, and then you can whip up another batch and put it in another container. So you can just have a bunch of containers of different flavors.
Now, where did you order the machine from? Off Amazon, or do you have to go to a special site? Did you order it all from?
Yeah, it was Amazon. Because I Googled, you know, I always do the ratings thing, like the best rated. So I was looking at between this and like Cuisinart and different ones. But I wanted one with a compressor because I didn't want to deal with the freezing of the bowl.
That makes sense. So what's that, about $275 or $375? How much is it?
I think it was like $288.
Yeah, I was gonna say that makes sense. About $300.
And this brand is called Winter, spelled Wynter, Winter, but supposedly it's a pretty decent one. But yeah, I'm excited now.
Wow. Yeah,
but the fact that I could do it the easy way and it still came out like professional.
How long did it take? I mean,
well, that was the weird thing though. In the instructions, in every recipe, nobody would say how long. Like, how long do you set this thing? Like, it should tell you approximately how long it's going to take. Nothing. It said you can set it for up to an hour, and it's like, yeah, but is that what you set it for? It's like, I wasn't sure. So I set it to a half hour, and when it got to a half hour, it wasn't quite there. So I stopped it, and then restarted it for another half hour. And it got to probably 25 minutes in, or no, less than 25 minutes. About 23 minutes in, and I could hear the thing bogging down, like it started to slow. It was having trouble, so I stopped it at that point.
So about 50 minutes then, roughly.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Wow. All right. Well, I know my next. I know. Peggy and I are beginning the spring to celebrate the coming summer. It's one of those machines. Because you're right. Because that frozen, I still got that in the freezer along with the turkeys. That one we put in the Cuisinart or whatever that thing the
KitchenAid one.
KitchenAid, right? That's it.
Yeah, and it takes up room in the freezer, and it's like, yeah, and once you do it, you can't make another batch until like you have to let it thaw out before you can wash it, and then you got to put it back in the freezer, and yeah, it's a lot of trouble. But this is what the first batch I made when I got home, I didn't use sugar, but then I use this stuff if I bake. It's a sweetener. I don't know if you can see it. Boca sweetener.
Yep.
And it's not like like a lot of those like stevia stuff and monk fruit. It leaves a weird taste in your mouth. That one actually, it's pretty close to sugar. I mean, I don't put as much as they say to put in there. I put about half, and it's just enough.
Wow.
But
yeah, I'm thinking.
So I did sweeten that batch a little bit.
I wonder how I'm thinking about that vanilla and putting my chocolate chips is crumbling up my chocolate bars and sprinkling that in there. Oh my gosh, that's going to be good.
Well, when I made her malt, I just took some cocoa powder and threw it in there, and it's her malt powder, and just blended it with the ice cream.
Well, I could do my steak shake, which is all organ meat. My steak shake takes that takes like chocolate itself, but it's all 20 grams of protein and just all organ meat. I don't know if you ever tried that. That stuff's great. You can't. Yeah, it's called steak shake. It's in a big container, and you would think that it's going to taste gross from what it's made of, but the chocolate they use and stevia, it's amazing. So I'll throw that in the ice cream. Would be protein ice cream. That's something else. As you were talking earlier, that's what I don't understand. Like, how do these restaurants? Why don't more food manufacturers? Why can't they make that type of ice cream and put it out there? It's so simple. It just we have the ability to eat and fuel our body utilizing great ingredients, and that's not going to cause our body to be inflamed. I just don't understand why that's not pushed. And so we can get in that next week, because I know I want to get into the whole Fruit Loops and all that stuff that is being pushed, which is just actually insane. But we can go on that next week, because I know we're way our hour this week. But well, listen, everybody out there, it's great to be back with you all. We're going to maybe change up the format a little bit, so you guys can we're going to do live, so you guys can hopefully be able to join in with us and ask your questions as we are doing the show. And Brian, when you were over there in Europe and you guys got the band together and celebrate Dave's birthday, what did you tell the guys to do when you guys sat around the table?
Of course, I said, eat your meat.
Well, glad to be back, everybody. Glad to have Brian back with me, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys next Friday or sooner. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well, stay kind, and stay out of that hospital, everybody. We'll see you
later.